Hello, everyone. Welcome to part two, episode two of Eggy Wegg Nation podcast.
Woo!
It is me, Mass again, and I am joined by my lovely friend
Henry,
Henry.
yeah, it's me.
And the movie we're discussing today is Donald Dicko.
Yeah, woo!
Yeah,
Yeah, Donnie Darko. Cool movie.
one of our personal
Donnie
favorites.
Darko, and I'll briefly be discussing S Darko, unfortunately.
Yeah, sadly, I did not
So
see it
have a
though.
stick
So
around for that.
yeah, so this movie is kind of an interesting case. I mean, it is sort of a cult following type of deal, commercial fucking failure kind of,
Well,
but been picking up traction, especially on
I mean it
especially
was a
on
commercial
Letterboxd. It's
failure at
a lot of people have
first,
been
but
logging it.
okay,
Yeah,
so
it picked up a bit of momentum,
it yeah, it's kind of it's definitely one of those like too weird to live, too rare to die kind of movies. Um,
basically.
like where like
Yeah,
everything was against it, but it lived anyway. Because like it was too confusing and like no one wanted to pick it up even after it was shown at Sundance. And then, but then was it like like a young like before he became like super well known, like Christopher Nolan was like, hey, this is pretty cool. I'm gonna get this company to I forgot the company name. It's not Gaylord Films, it's the other one.
Gaylord
Um
Films.
Christopher Nolan was like, okay, let's get this company to distribute the movie, and so they did. Um and then 9/11 happened. And so,
Yep,
you know,
bad timing
movie
right there.
about a jet engine crashing into someone's house.
That's just fucking unlucky,
Yeah.
dude.
And so that shit, yeah, went down badly because no one, in America, everyone was pretty uncomfortable about planes around the time. Can't imagine why. Thing is, in the UK though, we loved 9/11 in the UK. So Donnie Darko actually did really well.
Yeah,
And then just from yeah, so it actually did make its money back from like UK cinemas, and then it ended up being re-released in American cinemas once like it started picking up steam. So yeah, it was like a
yeah.
failure at first, and then became successful. So that's cool.
I'm convinced Richard Kelly is the unluckiest motherfucker in the world. His one good movie fucking fucking originally bombed because of 9/11. Like that
Yeah.
just sucks. I mean, I haven't seen Southland Tales and his other movie. Maybe they're good. I don't know.
I, re-
But
I doubt.
Donnie Darko is definitely the one people talk about the
I have
most.
seen
So,
I
yeah.
have seen one clip, like a tiny clip from Southland Tales. Not even like a full scene, just a tiny clip, and it's like this, like two CG cars, like like fucking, and
Oh well.
that's
Wow.
that's my only exposure.
That's cinema.
That's my only exposure to Southland
That's
Tales.
cinema.
Um, yeah.
Okay, I didn't tell you this, Henry, but actually a few weeks ago, like during the weekend, I like tried watching Southland
Oh,
Tales.
really?
Like I only got through like yeah, because I needed a movie to watch, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll go through the rest of his,
He's
filmography,
only made
whatever.
three
I got through
films.
like 30 minutes of it, and it hurt my head. I was so fucking lost. Like I couldn't tell if it was trying to be like a satire or if it was like the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Anyways, um, I didn't finish it, but I will hopefully one day.
I'm really
But
curious. I really want to see it. It looks interesting.
it's so weird and all over the place, kind of like this movie,
Yeah.
except this movie's like actually good. Um,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Donnie
before I
Darko is a
go on a rant
masterpiece.
about
So
yeah,
awesome
before I
movie.
go on a rant about fucking Southland Tales, I guess we'll actually fucking talk about the movie now. So yeah, this is this is a very sort of weird, almost like art housey type movie. It's still, I'd say, still. relatively like accessible.
Yeah,
It's just really
it's really cool.
confusing.
It's really cool. It's like confusing and art house and also indie. But I guess we'll get
Yeah,
into this later. But because of how easy it like I guess connects to most people. Um,
yeah,
it's like a film a lot of general audience people like, despite it being really confusing. Like
yeah,
usually that's a no-no when it comes to like showing movies to the bros, and then it's like, what the fuck is
yeah.
this?
This movie does have a really good like emotional core that like a lot of people can relate to. And even if you don't understand like the plot related stuff on like the first watch, you can sort of almost understand what the movie's trying to tell you or the message is kind of going towards, which is a really cool thing.
Mm.
But basically, for those of you who don't know, Donnie Darko is about this young man named Donnie Darko. And he's a little troubled, you know, he's a bit of an angsty guy, a bit of a edge lord, calls his mom a bitch, you know, that sort of vibe.
He definitely
And
what if
one day,
if he was around in like the 2010s instead of like the 80s, he definitely would be like an avid like Leafy fan.
yeah, yeah, he
He'd be
told me he would watch those like
he'd
cyberbullying
be part of
videos.
the lizards. I forgot what it was called. The
Yeah, he'd be
stupid.
spamming hiss in the
Yeah, he
comment
would
section.
hiss and kill yourself. Yeah, leave for like.
Basically. But the whole sort of sauce of the movie starts when Donnie starts seeing this bunny rabbit named Frank. And Frank basically, over the course of the movie, tells him to do these fucked up, horrible crimes. And as this movie progresses, they sort of get more and more intense. So at the start, Frank tells him to flood a school, and then it leads to him burning down this guy's house. So, and ultimately, all this stuff is for a good cause, and this is where sort of the sci-fi elements of the story kick in, because the whole reason why Donnie's doing this is because at the beginning of the movie, a jet engine fell onto his room. And what this did was the jet engine created a separate universe called the Tangent Universe. And the whole movie takes place in this Tangent Universe. And Donnie's goal, because when the jet engine fell onto his room, Donnie should have died, right? But he survived. And basically, the whole plot of the movie revolves around him getting the fucking jet engine back in time so that he can sacrifice himself to save the world. Because otherwise, if he doesn't, then both universes will collapse on each other and the world will end. So you can sort of see why it's a very confusing movie to a lot of people because it's almost fucking impossible to like get all that on first watch. Even if you watch like the theatrical cut where they literally like explain the time travel stuff to you, it'll be sort of hard to understand. You kind of that's the thing with this movie. To really understand the plot related elements, you kind of like have to do that extra like homework assignment and like do your research and kind of understand all the sci-fi shenanigans that happens. But I think it's actually pulled off really
Mm.
well, and one of the few examples of like a time travel plot like working, and also not like hindering the actual like themes and ideas the story is trying to tell you.
Yeah, I agree, and I think I mean I like all the sci-fi stuff, but I think what really makes the movie, in my opinion, is like, as you mentioned before, like the emotional core. I find this example I'm gonna bring up. It's not nearly as accessible, and you haven't seen it, Mass. But um, with films like Donnie Darko and I'm thinking of ending things, even if the story is confusing and you don't understand what's going on by the end, if the emotional core
Mm.
and what it's if the emotional core and the atmosphere and what you get from it is strong enough, it makes it worth it in the end. Um, and I guess it makes you want to like actually like figure out what the fuck went on.
Yeah, definitely. Like it gives you enough that you're like, okay, this is actually interesting and it's actually worth dissecting, and then you learn more, and it
If Donnie Darko
gets
was
sort of deeper
just
and deeper as you
if
go.
Donnie Darko was just like mindfuckery, I don't think it'd be nearly as as nearly as popular.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. There's like a lot more to it than just like the time travel stuff.
Mm,
Like the sci-fi elements are sort of used to like further like punctuate the other themes in the story and sort of make them pop more,
yeah.
which is really fucking cool. Because a lot of movies would make like time travel like the focus and that's it, but this movie actually has like other stuff it wants to say,
Mm.
and it makes for a really interesting like experience.
Yeah, it's like even though the plot revolves around time travel, it's kind of like a coming of age story first, and then
Yeah.
just with time travel elements like along with it.
hmm Yeah, exactly. It doesn't like completely like override the story, especially if you're watching the original cut where the time travel excerpts like aren't even in the movie. You're just like
Mm,
it's like entirely open to interpretation at that point, which
yeah.
is pretty sick.
Yeah, yeah, in terms of both cuts, I could go with either. I know, Mass, you haven't seen the original, you've just seen the director's. I've seen both.
I have not.
I've seen both and I love both, so I could go with either.
I've only seen yeah, I've only seen the director's cut because that's the cut on Movie Joy, and I'm too much of a lazy bastard to torrent the movie, so
Yeah,
that's the
woo!
version I watched. But
Yeah,
from what I've heard,
woo!
the differences aren't like that like crazy to the point where like one version is like clearly superior to the other.
Yeah,
Like there's
there's
merit for both, which is cool.
yeah, both cuts have merit, which is cool. Um, and it's not like a Star Wars situation where like one of them's unavailable.
Yeah,
Like both cuts have been consistently um been available. So
yeah, it's pretty awesome. Get to watch both versions of the movie.
yeah, yeah. I was thinking earlier. I was thinking of a word to like describe why it's so popular. I think I got it now. It's like resonant. I think Donnie Darko resonates with a lot of people just because of, I think mostly because of the main character. Like ignoring the the like imagining like bunny rabbits and shit. I think Donnie
Yeah,
Darko is like what a lot of like I guess like young boys and like men um wish they could be, where
hmm
like they know they don't fit into the world, and everything like
yeah,
everything around them just seems unfair, like they're just fated to not
yeah,
succeed. But Donnie Darko actually like stands up for himself. He like stands up to like authority, and like it helps like
yeah.
expose them for like who they are,
He has a few
kind of
Joker
indirectly,
moments in
yeah.
there.
Yeah, like I love the like love and fear scene in the school
Yeah,
where
and the shoving the lifeline exercise up her anus.
he told me to shove the lifeline exercise up my anus. It's a great scene. Um,
An amazing scene. Yeah. So yeah, that's also like yeah, a big part of the reason why a lot of people resonate with Donnie Darko is sort of the idea that um just kind of being in a world where things are very black and white and feeling like your superiors are trying to push you in one direction and you feel like you have to go on this set path and you're stuck on this set path and like that's it, which is kind of a scary thought because then that's kind of what the fear and love scene ties into. Basically that there is no like moral ambiguity and that things are only black and white and things can only go one certain way. And that's what makes Donnie Darko a really depressing movie is that Donnie Darko literally does get consumed by fate. Basically, he has no choice. He has to fucking save the world. And otherwise, all these people are just gonna, perish.
yeah,
And that's like a very scary idea.
yeah. There's literally a scene where he's talking to like one of his like teachers about like the philosophy of like time travel, and then he's talking about going off the path. I think he specifically like mentions God or something, and then like straying off
Yeah.
God's path, and then the teacher just stops him and says, "I'm sorry, but if we talk about this anymore, I might lose my job.
Yeah, like that's fucking scary. That was fucking chilling when
Yeah,
I
and
saw
I
it
think
for
that
like
kind of
the fucking fourth time.
ties into like the whole like aesthetic and like the town that
Yeah,
um that Donnie lives in, where it's kind of like a very even though the characters like they feel like real people, at the same time that the whole town is kind of exaggerated. It feels um like like something from like an 80s sitcom,
yeah.
but
It
except
feels like a parallel universe.
yeah, but like but it feels like a town where Donnie would not be the main character. Which also
Hmm.
kind of makes sense considering no one would end up like knowing like the sacrifice he made. He would
Yeah,
just end up being that guy who was killed by the jet engine.
basically.
Like if anything
Yeah.
if anything like his girlfriend like Gretchen, she would be the main character of like the town. She has the like the backstory of like abusive parents or whatever.
Her mom being stabbed.
Yeah,
Yeah. Hmm. I can imagine this movie would resonate a lot with like people who grew up in like religious backgrounds and feeling pressured to be religious, even if they don't necessarily believe in it. They're just
yeah,
following God and religion because everyone else in their town and their superiors and their friends are, even if they don't necessarily believe in it. I mean, Donnie Darko himself, like he doesn't necessarily believe in God.
mm,
His his therapist says he's agnostic, which means like he doesn't believe in it until he sees evidence, but he can't deny it either. So I think Richard Kelly did definitely sort of write Donnie Darko as like a sort of a critique on that sort of thing, and like the time travel stuff is just like extra
yeah.
sauce on top of the cake, basically.
I think it is balanced enough. Like I feel like it could have very easily turned into like especially with Donnie Darko like calling Jim Cunningham like the Antichrist and shit, and all like the religious people being like the quote bad guys, and one of them being having like a child porn ring. um, they it could have very easily gone kind of like r/atheism. Um,
Oh
it
yeah,
could have very
yeah,
easily,
for
but
sure.
it definitely avoids that. It doesn't go like, bro, you got that's stupid. You gotta trust the science, bro. You gotta trust the science, and
Yeah, it's angsty like that, but not like
yeah,
over the fucking top.
it's not to that point, and it's less like, bro, I pray to science 5 times a day, bro, and more like believing what you believe is like fine, but you can't just be um you gotta be open, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And usually when Donnie Darko is having like his super Reddit moments, like another character will usually like come and like calm him down. Like
Yeah,
after the whole Jim Cunningham thing, fucking Gretchen, his girlfriend, like tells him to like just calm down because he's going fucking berserk, dude.
yeah,
Once he gets riled up, he just doesn't calm down. And it's
yeah,
pretty hilarious, honestly, because there's moments in this movie. Because after all, okay, people still label Donnie Darko as Sigma, and he does have some like moments in this film that are like really weird and like funny, which is I think why a lot of people label him as that, because he's still kind of like, especially in the beginning of the movie, he's very like crass and like an asshole, which is more along the lines of like other Sigma characters, like I don't know, like Patrick
yeah.
Bateman, but like he's way more like
I
sympathetic
think people
than those
people just
characters.
use Sigma to mean like a literally me character nowadays anyway. So it's
Yeah,
not it doesn't it's not like a word that really means anything anymore. D-
it's kind of lost all
Donnie,
meaning.
yeah,
It's like film, bro.
yeah. It means nothing now. Like, what the fuck is a film, bro?
Yeah,
I like films. Am I a film,
we
bro?
don't even know anymore.
I'm a film, and
I guess
I'm not a
so.
film. I like films, and I'm a bro. My film, bro?
I think we should make a
I'm
film
quite
do.
literally a brother. Does that make me a film, bro?
I don't call myself a film bro. I call myself a dicko.
Yeah, with the with the Donald Dickos.
I'm literally the guy from the documentary, dude.
Yeah. We'll bring that up later. Um, the documentary. Um, yeah, there are a lot. Um, as I mentioned, like yeah, all the time travel stuff is really cool and how it works, especially with since like parts of a book were literally written for the movie
Yeah,
to
yeah,
kind of explain some of the lore behind it if you want to look into it, especially in the theatrical cut. That it none of the book's pages are actually. I think actually one of them is, but it's not shown on screen. It's not shown on screen like a like in the director's cut. It's more so just there's a shot where you can see the book page and like they're discussing it. It's
yeah.
specifically the one talking. What I forgot what they're called. You probably have a better name for it. But you know, like the orb things that like come out of people and show where they're going.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Forget what they're called.
Yeah, but like those things, there's part that explains that. And there's actually like the writer of the book in universe is like the crazy old lady.
Yeah, which is pretty like sick, like subversion of
Yeah,
expectations. That's why it like surprises me when like Richard Kelly himself said he wrote the script in like 30 days. Like, there's no fucking way, dude. Like, he
yeah.
must have, he must have planned like more
He was
beforehand because
definitely
he wrote a
thinking about
whole
that for a
set of
while.
rules inside his movie. Yeah, for sure. It definitely planned it for a while, and then actually writing the actual script took like 30 days. That would like
Yeah.
make sense. Also, soundtrack for this movie. Mm, mm-mm.
Soundtrack is
So sorry.
so good, so good, so
Mm-mm-mm.
good, so sick.
Fucking, it perfectly captures like that sort of moody
It's
like teenage
it's
angst. The
so
movie's like soaked in.
atmospheric. It feels like that that music that plays when they're in the cinema. It feels like an out of body
Yeah,
experience. It's beautiful.
otherworldly, bro.
Mm,
And one of the only instances where fucking Mad World playing in the movie doesn't feel like melodramatic or like
yeah.
corny. Like, it fits in
If
like
yeah, it fits so
perfectly somehow.
it fits so perfectly. And like even the song that plays at the beginning of the theatrical cut, like the lyrics are even about are about fate. So, because I know you haven't seen the theatrical
Yeah,
cut, yeah, the lyrics are about fate. It's really cool.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You sent me the link. I checked it out. I like both versions.
Yeah, uh, yeah, they're both cool. I think I might like the song used in the theatrical cut first. I
Yeah,
better
same here.
because the track in the director's cut is what Richard Kelly wanted to use first, but he didn't have the money. He couldn't get the rights or something, so he used a cheaper song.
That
And then
sucks,
for the director's cut, he used the song he wanted.
bro.
Um, and also, I should mention, there's actually like an original cut of Donnie Darko that was shown at the Sundance Film Festival, and um, which is a lot more similar to the director's cut, as far as I'm aware. Although I think it's been released to the public. It might not still exist. I'm not sure. But apparently it was like um, 2 hours 45 minutes in length, like nearly 3 hours,
What the fuck?
which is like a little
Holy shit.
ridiculous. Like that seems a bit draining to me, honestly. Like
That's like near the Godfather, like
yeah,
Godfather
yeah.
length
Like the director's cut.
of just
The
Donnie
director's
Darko.
cut is honestly for me kind of pushing it a little bit in length, but like two
Hmm.
hours 45 minutes. That's just like that is too much, in my
Yeah, it does.
opinion.
What? Yeah, it does not need to be that
It's
long.
like
I
that's
do love me Donald
ridiculous.
Donald Darko,
Yeah,
but that's too much even for me.
yeah. I love
What could possibly what could possibly justify that runtime? I don't know.
more scenes of Seth Rogen. Oh yeah, Seth
Yeah,
Rogen's acting debut. Was in
Yep.
Donald
His
Darko.
first movie before Superbad, before before everything in time.
Yeah, before
Pretty awesome.
Sausage Pie or whatever shit penis he's doing
The
now.
sausage party.
Yeah, Lion
Yeah.
King, new shit one. I don't know.
Such a fucking such a fucking weird debut. I didn't even know it was him when I first watched the movie.
Yeah, I
And then
didn't
someone said
either.
Seth Rogen was in this, and I was like, "What?
Yeah, it's so weird.
Where?" And his like barely has any lines. Like his one of his lines is "I like your
Yeah,
boobs,"
I like your
and then
boobs.
all of his lines are like
Yeah, great line.
fucking stupid. It's
He's
amazing.
like not even like that major of a character.
No, he's not. He's one of the bullies.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't really like the bullies in the movie, but I think they're fine. I think they serve a purpose. A lot of people are distracted by the Seth Rogen appearance, and
It is a
I'll
little bit
admit his
jarring.
acting is a bit dodgy.
It
Yeah,
is a little bit
but
jarring,
like
but
it doesn't
I
ruin
don't
the
think
movie.
it's his fault. I don't think it's the movie's fault. I think it's just the fact that it's Seth Rogen kind of like throws me off.
Yeah,
But that's not the movie's fault. Like it
yeah,
couldn't have known like the
yeah.
monster he'd
Like I'm
become.
exactly. Like imagine being a first time actor and your first script is fucking Donnie Darko and also you're Seth Rogen. Like that's
Yeah.
just gonna be
Jesus
that's just gonna be a
Christ.
disaster no matter what. So yeah, and like the script for this movie is very outlandish. Okay, I'm not gonna cut any corners here. It's not a conventional fucking script. I
Yeah.
mean, character even though the way characters talk is like bizarre. A lot of
It's
people
very
chalk this up to
weird.
bad writing, but personally, I really like it.
Yeah, I
I
like
really
it as
like it,
well.
and it sort of adds to the otherworldly feel
It feels
of the movie.
especially with the how the film looks, it feels kind of like it's like a fever dream kind of.
Yeah, it is. It
Like it
is.
wasn't meant to happen. Like which, it
Yeah.
wasn't because
Uh-huh.
he was supposed to be killed at the
Yeah,
beginning.
exactly. Adds to the whole like otherworldly feel of the movie, and also I'm not gonna act like the dialogue is like really, really, really well written and funny at like a lot of points. Like
Nah,
obviously
it
Richard
is a
Kelly
really
like put a
funny
lot of
movie.
thought into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Despite how like gloomy and like sad the overall like takeaway is, it
Yeah.
is
It
pretty
perfectly
hilarious.
balances it.
Especially the whole Smurf scene.
Yeah, I love the
I love the
Smurf
Smurf
scene.
scene.
Beer,
He goes on a
beer and
Donnie
pussy.
Darko goes on a
That's all
tangent
I
about
need.
fucking his friends, dude. Oh my fucking
One of the
god.
yeah.
They're menaces. That four fucking Sharita, I feel so bad for her, dog.
Yeah. Oh no, in okay, this was cut in the director's cut. Um, but in the theatrical
Yeah.
cut, when she's doing her dance on stage, um,
Yeah.
you can hear the bully when it nears the end, you can hear the bullies in the background scream like you suck and shit.
Oh, what the fuck?
Yeah, and
Wow.
also the applause is a lot more like um it's less enthusiastic and more like a pity applause. It's really sad.
Oh my god, that's horrible.
And then
Yeah.
they changed it for the
It's so
director's cut.
Sharita gets treated like such shit the whole
Yeah.
movie. It's kind of
Although
wholesome
the
though. Like,
director's cut doesn't have no, the original cut doesn't have the line where was it one of Donnie's friends or something? It's like, I hope you get molested.
yeah, that one was so fucking over the
That
top,
line's
dude.
not in the original cut.
Calls her Porky Pig.
Yeah, it's
Like
so
Jesus Christ.
horrible. It's so
It
horrible.
is kind of wholesome that like Donnie is like the only one who's like treats her like a normal person basically.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing with telling her like there's a scene where they're in the hallway and like he just goes up to her and just puts his hands over her ears and he says everything is going to be okay.
Yeah.
And then she just runs away. And then it's like revealed she has like a notebook that has the word Donnie Darko on it.
Yeah.
Like she has a huge crush on Donnie,
Yeah,
which I
it's
mean, I
sweet.
can't blame her, dude. Jake Gyllenhaal is such a
Yeah,
cutie,
yeah. He do be though.
and he had a sick performance in this.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. there's so many like iconic just like really meaningful lines that I just love that just stand out to me and
Hmm.
that like call back throughout the entire film. That's why I can't that's why this is one of those movies where if something feels a bit off, I'm not gonna chalk it up to like bad direction or acting or something. For me this is one of those movies where if everything feels intentional.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I agree. It does like play into the movie like really fucking well.
Yeah. Like I love that. We haven't even talked about Frank. Should we talk about Frank? Because I was going to mention something about him.
Yeah,
Um,
sure, you can mention it.
yeah. So Frank is like on my first two watches. Frank was kind of like just like he's kind of like the weird like omnipotent kind of creature that like gets like it kind of forces like Donnie to like set like burn down people's houses and like flood the school and shit against his will.
Yeah,
And like on the surface, without watching the movie, you would think like, oh, he's kind of he looks kind of like a slasher villain.
yeah, he
Um,
does. He looks kind of spooky.
yeah, I mean, which makes sense because it's like a Halloween costume. But, like on my third viewing,
Hmm.
like there was just one line that like stuck with me that just made me it made me find like Frank's like whole deal's like so sad just because
Hmm.
he has one line where he talks about how and this also deals with the whole thing of fate again where his where like
Hmm.
his name is Frank, his name was Frank, and also his father before him and his father before him um were like all called
Yeah,
Frank. And
yeah,
very very early on in the movie his parents Donnie Darko's parents make reference to a kid named Frank that died on the way to prom or something like
yeah.
that. And they discuss about how
Hmm.
that could have been Donnie.
Yeah,
Which in the main
which is,
universe it does end up being,
oh
which
yeah,
is yeah, which is so upsetting. This movie like destroys me
yeah.
emotionally. I hate it. Um,
They're like, oh my God, Donnie do dodged a bullet, and then at the fucking end, he gets crushed by a fucking jet engine, dude.
yeah, it's so sad. That whole yeah, and obviously Donnie ends up shooting Frank out of like kind of like retaliation after he accidentally runs over his over Gretchen,
Yeah,
and so it's kind of like Frank's whole ordeal is that he was like I guess fated to die anyway.
yeah,
Like he
which
never
is,
had
yeah,
any
it's fucking
choice in the
scary.
matter.
Yeah, all the Franks are like destined to like die young, basically.
Yeah, it's so sad.
So like how Donnie's destined to like fucking save the world and like sacrifice
Yeah.
himself
Yeah,
because he has no choice.
they even mention earlier, Gretchen mentions that his name sounds like a superhero name.
Yeah, which is like fucking awesome foreshadowing right
Yeah, it's
there
so cool.
from Richard Kelly. And the line, she also has a good line where she's like, "Some people are just born with tragedy in their blood." Like oh my
Yeah,
fucking God.
it's so
I
sad.
had to fucking pause the movie after that. Yeah, it's fucking nuts.
Mm. Yeah, and yeah, especially and like one part that I guess really gets me is I guess like the very very end of the movie where Gretchen like cycles past like Donnie's house after he's died and like
Yeah,
and I think like the little kid asks if he knew if like she knew Donnie Darko and like she says no but you can kind of tell
she
that like
remembers a little bit.
that she's maybe experiencing like deja vu and it's so sad.
Yeah.
It's like what could have been. Um,
Yeah,
but
that's actually like one of the things they explain in like the time travel excerpts. Because like there's a passage where it says like after the primary universe is saved, basically, people will still have like a fleeting memory of like what happened in the tangent universe for like a few minutes or a few seconds,
yeah,
which is just like a nice little detail.
and it kind of the whole thing where it's like, oh yeah, what could have been like that. It kind of ties into the whole thing of uh, I guess like freedom of choice. Like this could have been like Donnie could have been in the main universe he could have been like I guess I don't know um he could have actually like lived out his life and like met Gretchen
Yeah,
and take
yeah,
down Jim Cunningham but he never really had a choice in the matter. He was always destined to fucking die. God
yeah.
damn.
It's just like
It's so
wasted, sort of
sad.
wasted potential.
Fuck.
Yeah,
Um,
it's just like the idea of like wasted potential, especially since like clearly like Donnie Darko isn't like stupid. Like he has like talent. Like he's a
they
he's a
mentioned that
painter.
his
Yep, has some pretty fire
yeah,
drawings.
they mentioned that like he's really smart, but they don't get why he isn't cooperating
Yeah,
with the system. And that whole thing with
yeah,
wasted potential is kind of is kind of I think a part of like what the film is trying to get at, how there are kids like Donnie who are very talented and have potential, but like just the systems in place will just fail them.
yeah.
They're not they're designed, I guess, not for like people who want to stray from the path. You could say.
It squeezes creativity out of people
Yeah.
basically, and like forces them to like conform.
Yep.
Which yeah, I can like definitely like resonate with that.
Yeah.
And
I
like
I
I'm pretty
definitely can
sure
as well.
Richard Kelly grew up in a very like I think Richard Kelly grew up in a sort of conservative like religious
Yeah.
background, which would make
Yeah,
sense.
the whole town was heavily based on his own town where he
Yeah.
grew up.
Like sometimes I just want to burn down people's houses without legal
Yeah,
repercussions. Like why can't I
exactly.
do that?
Oh,
I think that's what the movie's
okay.
trying to
There was
create.
one thing I forgot to mention. I wanted to mention earlier. So you know
Yeah,
the lines that show where people are gonna go.
yeah.
Um, so the way that so the way that Richard Kelly came up with that idea is kind of funny. So he would watch NFL a lot while high, and
Yeah.
um,
Oh,
there would be one section where I think after the game, John Madden would explain like how the players performed and stuff, and so like he'd pause the video and then draw lines to show where the players were going. And
oh,
Richard Kelly was like watching that while high, and he was like, "Oh shit!" And he got the idea
that's
from
fucking
that.
cool.
Yeah, so
That's
that's really
amazing. I
funny.
didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah, and
Zaza observation.
yeah, Zaza observation, and I don't know how much. I don't know how much you know about this mass. There have been talks about. It's not confirmed. There have been talks from Richard Kelly himself about a proper, in quotes, proper, I should state, Donnie Darko continuation, like by
Oh,
Richard Kelly.
oh,
But like specific, but
damn.
it probably won't happen. I don't think. But and honestly, Donnie Darko is one of those stories where
It doesn't
it's
need
like a
one.
it's like a circular narrative. It wraps itself up so perfectly. Doesn't
Yeah,
need one. Like
it really does. Yeah, it really
by
doesn't.
the end
No.
of the film, because it all takes place in like a tangent universe. By the end of the film, all that's happened is that Donnie Darko was killed by a jet engine, and that's it. That is all that
Yeah,
is canon by the end of the film. It's so
yeah,
sad.
yeah.
But yeah, Richard Kelly had, I think he had, uh, really hope I'm not wrong. I think like Richard Kelly, he like had a talk with James Cameron or something in 2017, and James Cameron was like, "Well, this is so cool. You need to. This universe is like so good. You need to continue it." And then in 2021, he was like talking about like writing ideas for like a Donnie Darko like either a proper sequel movie or a TV show or something. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but I'm not sure how much has come of that or if we'll even get it. I don't really.
Yeah,
I'm not
like
really fussed either way.
me
I
neither.
think
The
it's
thing
fine
is,
on its
like,
own.
as much as I love Richard Kelly, like I don't want him to like pigeonhole himself into just doing Donnie Darko related stuff. Like
Yeah.
he only has like 3 films right now, and like his whole career has kind of been just this one movie. And I want to see him do other things and like succeed in making other films. You know, I don't
Mm,
want him just to be doing Donnie Darko related content like
yeah.
his whole career. It'd be cool to see him like do some other stuff. Like since his other 2 movies kind of flopped a little bit, it would be interesting to see how his career sort of plays out doing other things.
Yeah. Though he hasn't made a movie in like since 2009 or something. So,
Has it really been that long?
yeah, he released like The
Jeez.
Box in like 2009 or something. It's called like The Box or something, I
Yeah.
can't remember.
It's kind of weird with his other movies though, because I feel like some people like there's a like it's kind of like the cult following Donnie Darko has, but like to the extreme where like it's really like a minority of people who really
Yeah,
love Southland Tales and like The Box. So maybe really does have something going on there. I don't know,
maybe.
but yeah, but obviously it's not really paying off commercially,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate because I want to see him make more movies.
I
It'd
do
be
too.
sick.
Even especially if they continue to be like weird. Um,
Yeah,
I want
exactly.
more of that shit. Uh, anyway,
He does. He does have a very distinct
yeah,
voice.
I did mention that Donnie Darko that they were considering a proper Donnie Darko continuation but I say proper because there was one which I think Richard Kelly himself like refuses to acknowledge and isn't canon, fortunately. Um, there's a film released in 2009 that was direct to DVD called eh, okay, so I call it S Darko. According to Wikipedia, though, it's officially pronounced S. Darko because there's
Yeah,
a film
what?
there's a
What?
full stop after the S. Um,
Oh
for
my
this fucking
God.
movie.
What
Oh
the
my
fuck is
god. So when I watched S Darko, I was kind of like, I really fucking hated it, and I was really mad. And then, but like the more I learn about it, the more I become less mad and more sad. I
hmm
guess because it was like it's kind of like it's one of those situations where the studio was going to make it either way, so some fans like took the job. Some fans of Donnie Darko took the job just like so that it wouldn't become like an American Psycho 2 or something. Um, and
Yeah.
so, but obviously, but yeah, it was kind of doomed to be bad. Um,
Yeah,
because
it's just
making a
unfortunate
sequel
situation.
to a film as complicated as Donnie Darko, and
hmm
putting the like let's make a sequel before I have an idea for a sequel. That it's gonna
Yeah, it's
end.
always a great idea.
It's gonna end terribly, and it did. And as a result, it feels like a fan fiction.
Yeah, which is just like just fucking unfortunate, man.
Yeah,
I just feel bad for like the writers because like it seems like they at least tried, sort of, and they were just in a kind of bad hand, I guess,
yeah,
which is sucks. I mean, it's better. It makes me feel better that it wasn't just like some soulless thing made
yeah.
solely for money, and like that's
Well,
it.
it
Like that
well
is kind of
that
comforting,
was
but
why it was made, but
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
the
But like
people making
the
it,
I mean the
the
writers,
people making it probably didn't want to make it, but you know,
yeah,
and
the writers cared about the original material.
yeah, it just makes it kind of sad. But yeah, the plot is
Mhm.
incredibly fucking convoluted and not in a good way, like Donnie Darko. Um, it's in like a shit way where there's tons of threads that kind of don't go anywhere and are terrible, and it repeats so much of the first film, but just in a way more heavy-handed way. Like,
Mm.
and the movie's kind of set like split into three parts. The pacing is terrible. Where at okay, first, so the whole thing is that Samantha Darko isn't like a isn't she isn't like Donnie Darko, where she's like the savior of the universe or whatever. Um, Instead, the savior of the universe is some guy. I forgot his name, but some like weird guy who's like a hobo. And he's weird, and he like sits by like a windmill.
That's a fucking homeless guy.
Yeah, and instead Samantha is a Frank instead,
Oh,
and so
oh, what the fuck?
yeah, near the end of the movie, she ends up near the end of the movie she ends up dying. She ends up dying, and I think that's how she becomes the Frank to this hobo guy who ends up dying. Because like a meteorite or something, and he ends up sacrificing himself. This like hobo guy we don't care about. Um, but at the end, she's also like fine as well for some reason. Um, and not only that, but
Oh,
like that part where she dies. Not only does she like end up dying because she's with like her fucking like nerd like boyfriend who's like an incel. And when she's like, I don't want to look at the meteorites, he's like wow, wow, I can't believe women, wow. And then like he pushes her over, and she conveniently ends up stabbing her. Her head ends up like conveniently
oh
being
my God.
stabbed by like a metal Frank mask that the hobo made because
Why,
somehow okay,
why
so
would
I
the
didn't
hobo?
mention this, and this isn't something that's like really mentioned in the movie. You have to like look into it. But Frank in the original movie is Donnie's like sister's boyfriend, and he's like he also drew like some Frank stuff. um And so
Hmm.
for some reason, Samantha has some like Frank stuff. She has Frank drawings with her for some reason, and the hobo
Oh,
ends up seeing them, and he builds his own Frank mask. And it's fucking stupid. And so that's how she
just cause.
dies. That's how she dies, by landing on the Frank mask. Not only that, but that's the second time she dies in the movie. Basically, 40 minutes in, um, the whole thing that happens with Gretchen happens with Samantha, where she ends up like dying because a car comes out of nowhere and like kills her, and then Samantha's like friend like fucks around for a bit, and then like the tornado appears, and then she ends up like going back in time, but instead like sacrificing herself to get killed by the car instead of just like
What the what
instead
the
of both of them
fuck?
surviving. And they do that whole like moving backwards in time sequence that Donnie Darko does at the end. They do that whole thing, but it's
Ass.
like an hour into the film, and then and then
Oh
and then
my
they do the
God.
same thing again at the very end of the film, where it turns out that like nothing happened, and
Yay.
Samantha and her friend are both alive, and everyone's like alive except for the hobo who's dead now. And it's fucking stupid. And there's like some religious people who have like but like they basically take Jim Cunningham, but like make it times 100, and make it really on the nose, where they try to replicate the cinema scene from the original, where for some reason Samantha the and this like religious guy are in the cinema, and they're looking at the screen, and instead of being some weird instead of being like the Frank shit from the original, where there's like an explanation for why Donnie's seeing weird shit, they kind of just see on the screen. And it's like, oh, what do you see on the screen? And she's like, oh, it's me in my childhood, and it just plays like a clip from the original of her like dancing as part of Sparkle Motion.
Okay.
Um, and and then the fucking religious guy starts like touching her leg and shit, and starts praying on her. And
Oh
then it's like, and then
no.
she's like, no, and goes away. And it's like, I don't get what any of this was supposed to mean. And then there's this missing kid throughout the whole film. And then it turns out that the religious people have, like, the kid locked up for some reason. And it's fucking stupid and shit.
You know, I'm kind of glad I
Fucking hell.
skipped and smoked weed instead of watching this
Yeah.
movie. Honestly, it sounds
It tries
horrible.
to replicate so many things from the original. Like the people making it, I'm sorry, I feel bad, but like they clearly love the original, which is why they copied so much of it and did it like shit. Like they copy the
Yeah,
cinema scene. They copy like the ending where the guy is dead, and then it's just like doing fades into like where everyone is right then. But in Donnie Darko, it's everyone waking up on the day that Donnie dies. But in
yeah,
this film, it's literally for no reason. Like it just shows one of the religious ladies in the cinema for no reason. It's like why? Why are you doing this? What's the thematic purpose or anything? It's like it's a shit.
yeah. It like
And
it borrows stuff from the like
yeah,
original, like while missing the
and
point, kind
there's
of.
this one shot in Donnie Darko which is really cool where it kind of starts off sideways and shows like Donnie getting out of the school bus and going into the school, and it's done really well. It looks cool. They
Yeah, it
try
sounds
doing
sick.
that again, but it's like a guy who's like standing upside down in a party. But the cinematography is shite, and it looks terrible when it like turns around. And they try and do like copy so much from the original. It's so shit.
Directed this movie. He hasn't done much else, has he?
No,
Or she?
no, nothing else.
Yeah, it's not
Nothing of
surprising.
note. None of his stuff has like good scores on Letterboxd. But yeah, it's
That sucks.
really shit. It's
Yeah,
like
it sounds fucking awful.
it feels like the people who made it didn't understand Donnie Darko, and they were just trying to replicate the feel of Donnie Darko and the visuals without thinking about why it worked thematically
Yeah, the
and why
actual like
people and why
substance.
yeah, without thinking about like why it was done, like the substance and the characters and shit and the lore, and it's terrible.
Yeah,
It's fucking so terrible. Uh yeah, be glad you didn't see
still
it.
better than American Psycho 2.
Yeah, it is. It's better than American Psycho 2. Do you want to talk about the documentary?
Oh yeah, sure. I love this documentary. It's
Yeah,
fucking
yeah,
hilarious.
it's hilarious. It's way better than it's a way better sequel to Donnie Darko
It's literally better than S.
than S
Darko.
Darko is. Okay, so it follows.
Yeah,
It's like a mockumentary. It's not real, but it follows this guy who's the number one Donnie Darko fan, as he like um
literally me.
yeah, literally me. As he like goes around like talking about his love for Donnie Darko and like how he like harasses and like him harassing the like actor for Frank and and he
Yeah, he has
like
a Frank shrine.
yeah, and he like steals a kiss from like Richard Kelly. It is
Yeah,
really funny.
like not even like the real fucking guy. Like he just gets a kiss from him.
Yeah,
It's pretty
it's so
awesome.
funny. And there's a scene where like he shows up at the Donnie Darko Q&A, and he talks about by the way this but in the philosophy of time travel these pages are missing. Do you know who the publisher is so I can get in contact with them? And Richard Kelly's just like, it's not real. I made it up. Those pages don't exist.
Not a real
And then
book.
he storms off. And it's so, in front of like a live crowd that don't know that
Yeah,
he's in on it, and it's really funny.
yeah.
And
Everyone in the audience thinks it's like real.
there's loads of really funny details, like how he's driving through Middlesex, and like he's driving through his own town, and he's pretending it's Middlesex, and he passes by some like big house with a bouncy castle, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I pretend that that's Jim Cunningham's house, and he's got the bouncy castle to lure in all the kids."
I forgot about that
And he's
part.
got his like bedroom door says like cellar door, and there's one part.
My favorite.
There's one part
Yeah,
he gets the actor for Frank to like sign a picture, like a photo of Frank that he printed out. And then when he goes back to his room, he sticks he like sticks it on his wall right next to like an identical picture of Frank. It's so
yeah,
funny, and he's got like a million Donnie
so
Darko
good.
DVDs, and he's got like a paper mache
He put
jet engine hanging from his ceiling.
and he puts his hand over like he puts his hand over the Frank image like at one point, like that one scene I think
It's
in
so
the
good.
original movie.
Yeah, and
I don't know.
yeah, and he signs up to like a Jake Gyllenhaal like fan site to get photos of him. Just
Yeah,
not just because he's like so obsessed with Donnie Darko, and he's like, yeah, I'm probably like the only guy who's like signed up to this.
it's funny because like even though like the mockumentary is like making fun of like obsessed fans, it's pretty clear that the guy who made this is like a huge fan of like Donnie Darko, which is pretty
Yeah,
sweet,
he's
honestly.
an actor in Southland Tales, so
Yeah, he's like pretty close with
yeah,
Richard Kelly.
yeah, it's so cool.
And that kissing scene is just
Oh,
beautiful. I loved it so much.
romantic.
Wish I was him.
Yeah, I wish. Yeah,
Yeah, I know, man.
I wish I would. He's literally
That'll happen
me.
to me one day.
Yeah, I will. I
I know,
will
dude.
kiss Richard Kelly. It will happen.
One day it will. With consent or not.
Yeah, consent optional. That's fucked up, man.
Sorry.
So yeah, is there anything else like
I-
surrounding Donnie Darko you want to talk about?
Um, I don't even know, man. I don't think so. I think did we talk about everything?
I think so. I don't know. We didn't talk
All right.
about.
Well, we've
We
already.
didn't talk about. Um, I guess there's some stuff we missed, like We didn't talk about the teachers, but I just realized,
Oh
like the
yeah.
bitchy one and also the cool one. We didn't talk about either of them, but whatever. I really doubt your your commitment to sparkle motion.
That scene is so frustrating.
Yeah. So yeah.
She's such a bitch,
What
bro.
a dumbass.
What a nerd. Nerd
I guess just to
emoji.
slot this in at the end, I like how there's this really cheesy scene where Gretchen shows up, and this is like straight out of like an 80s sitcom. And Gretchen shows up, and the teacher's like, um, and she's like, "All right, so you just choose where. Okay, so if you want to choose where to sit, just sit next to the cutest boy in class." And then she ends up sitting
Oh
next to
yeah.
Donnie, and like
It's just,
that does seem like a really funny, like cheesy sitcom scene. And then later, if once you've looked into it and you realize that she might be like one of the manipulated living that
yeah.
that the book
That's then
references,
it's actually
it does
cool.
seem like she was like manipulating her.
It
She was
recontextualizes
like
it.
trying to get
Yeah.
because she ends up choosing for her the teacher. She's like she tells like the girl sitting next to Donnie to like get out of her seat. Um, so
Yeah.
it's like she literally made her sit next to like
Yeah.
Donnie Darko.
Exactly. Like it's literally being manipulated by some like higher power to like
Yeah,
sit next to Donnie, which is
it's yeah,
fucking. It's actually
like
cool.
details like that are so awesome.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff in this movie on the surface is like, oh, that's fucking corny, that's fucking stupid, and then
Yeah,
in the context of like the actual like lore and stuff, you're like, wow,
yeah.
that's
Rewatching
like
it is
actually
so
interesting and
cool.
like creative. Exactly, because you pick up on like so much new
Mm,
shit,
it's so awesome.
so many layers.
Yeah. So do we want to like wrap up?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Alright, so overall, Donnie Darko, one of my favorite movies ever. I have it in my top 4 right now. Obviously, it's a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. I don't have any problems with it. Probably my second favorite movie. I don't have, like, my 5 ranked that tightly, but, like, it's up there. Amazing.
Yeah. Uh, I'd say it's like up there as well. Well, not like second favorite. I'd also say it's like a 10 out of 10 movie probably. Um, I'd at least put it in like my top 15 favorite movies. I love
Mhm.
it. It's great.
That's fair. You live to see another day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shout out to
I
Richard
love the
Kelly.
time travel. I love all the technical aspects, and it's just a very emotionally like resonant movie. I find so interesting, both like lore wise and thematically. I can
Yeah,
just think about it all day.
there's so much to dig into.
Yeah,
And it's saucy as
it's
fuck.
so saucy. And it's like the theatrical cut is only like an hour and like 50 minutes. It's so short, and it has so
Yeah.
much packed into
So
it.
so it really is worth the watch because you
Mm,
get a lot out of
so
it.
much.
And it's not a huge, like, time investment. It's very cool.
Yeah.
And it's a unique experience. You're not gonna get that from a lot of other movies, so, it's worth checking out.
Yep.
Almost as good as Boss Baby. I don't know if it's as good, but, like, it's definitely up there for some of the good movies I've
Maybe.
seen. It doesn't have the Boss Baby theme song.
Yeah, I'm the
Boss
boss, baby.
baby,
I don't even know how it
boss baby,
goes.
boss
Boss,
baby,
baby, boss, baby.
boss
Boss,
baby.
baby.
I'm selling high and I'm buying low.
Do you actually? I haven't actually.
That's an actual
I
lyric.
listened to like 2 seconds of it, and I was like, no, boss, baby, I'm the
They didn't
boss. I just,
try. They didn't fucking try
I
at
listened to
all.
2 seconds, and all I heard was just boss, baby, I'm the boss, baby. I stopped
Yeah, they didn't.
listening to it.
It's fucking. They didn't try for the Boss Baby theme song.
What the
What? Are you kidding me,
hell?
dude?
That movie deserves
Why wouldn't
so
they?
much
Why
more.
wouldn't they? It's kind of funny Hans Zimmer did the score though. I mean, I know
Boss
he does a
baby,
lot of
I'm the
stuff, but
boss.
like,
Yeah, he works with DreamWorks a lot, so it's not
yeah,
surprising. Paycheck.
boss, baby,
I'm the boss baby.
paycheck
I'm the boss
moment.
baby, boss baby, boss baby, boss baby.
Hey,
All right,
chase a bag, you know.
this is the boss baby. I'm not the boss baby.
I'm boss baby, you fuck.
Are you the boss baby signing out?
Boss baby signing out. Business closed.
Fired. Yeah. Bye.